Welcome to the Painter Marketing Mastermind podcast, a show created to help painting company owners build a thriving painting business that does well over $1 million in annual revenue. I'm your host, Brandon Pierpont, founder of Painter Marketing Pros and creator of the popular PCA educational series, Learn, Do, Grow, Marketing for Painters. In each episode, I'll be sharing proven tips, strategies, and processes from leading experts in the industry on how they found success in their painting business. We will be interviewing owners of the most successful painting companies in North America and learning from their experiences. In this series titled Mindset Matters Most, Juan Vasquez of Illusions Painting will be discussing his journey from being a day-to-day painting contractor to becoming a profitable business owner with a vision for his company. In episode 1, Juan discussed his past life, how his business used to look. In episode 2, this episode, Juan will share the experience that opened his eyes and changed his life and what happened next. In episode 3, Juan will dive into all the transitions necessary for his business after his mindset changed. In episode 4, Juan will open up the hood and detail what Illusions Painting looks like today. And in episode 5, the final episode, Juan will lay out his thoughts regarding lack of self-confidence and stereotypes and the initiatives he is currently conducting to help lift up other contractors. If you want to ask Juan questions related to anything in this podcast series, you can do so on our exclusive Painter Marketing Mastermind podcast forum on Facebook. Just search for Painter Marketing Mastermind podcast forum on Facebook and request to join the group, or type in the URL facebook.com/groups/Painter Marketing Mastermind. Again, that URL is facebook.com/groups/Painter Marketing Mastermind. There you can ask Juan questions directly by tagging him with your question so you can see how anything discussed here applies to your particular painting company. What's up, Juan?
Hey, what's up, Brandon? How you doing?
We're back, man. I'm doing well. We're back.
We're here, man. We're here. We're blessed. Friday. We're almost a long weekend.
Yes,
are
sir.
you gonna have a long weekend?
I am, my man. I am. Yeah, I am looking forward to it. We are filming this one on June 30th. I think it's probably going to be released. Man, I don't even know. I lose track. Mid-August, maybe early August, somewhere in that vicinity. We're getting ahead of the game.
Perfect. Awesome. Love it.
I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, no. So, thank you. Here we are again. I know we had a really good chat last time. So, now let's keep that. Well, I don't know, man. I don't know about spoils, but here we are again.
Through the background you had, I know you tried to get you're gonna get it to me.
I was trying to get back to the office. I mean, my house is about 20 minutes away from the office, so I was trying my best, but we have another podcast to do us here today, so I have to wait here at the office so I can have Jose and the crew do it with me. So I have to do it on my regular office.
Yeah. All right. So last episode 1, we were talking about the past life, your backstory. I appreciate you sharing everything that you did. You definitely opened up a lot. And then the insecurities, the starting of the company, what it used to look like, the day-to-day grind, the hustle, maybe not quite the clarity and vision that you have now. And then there was a cliffhanger, right? Like, boom, something happened and it changed everything. And then this episode is about about the mindset shift. Let's get into it.
Yeah, that's right. So, little recap for what we did, talked about the younger Juan, and
he knew everything, man.
I
wish I could have him on this podcast. He would solve everything.
Man, he didn't get nervous like I get nowadays. The older Juan gets more nervous than he did when he was young. He can just jump off the cliff and don't look back. Now I'm looking at the cliff. I'm like, I don't know if I can jump. I don't know.
Older one didn't even look down. He's just our younger one. He was just going. He's ready to go.
Right? Also younger. That was like younger.
Somehow he survived and he became the older one.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So we're talking about that. Like we were just talking about when I started the business. I was in my 20s. It was 2006, 2007. When I started the business, worked for all this time, and then like I mentioned, there was always this little itch, there's got to be more out there. I always had the mentality of like, if I can create a group or there's got to be better ways of doing more. Even I know that by myself I couldn't do that. So my Sherwin-Williams, and Sherwin has Sherwin has been kind of like a big influence. Well, not a big influence, but a big part of where I am now. And we'll talk about the PC8 as well. So one thing that I always talk about, and is just something so big in me and the company. My sales rep, Don, um, super cool guy. He wasn't the greatest salesman, but a really good friend. I'm just
A
saying,
sales rep, he's not good at his job, but the guy is cool.
I love the guy, and he was with us for like 20 years in our area.
Oh, wow.
And but he was a friend. Like if you needed something, he was there. But if
Yep.
you needed some other stuff, we're not gonna
You
get
needed
into it.
a
I love the
sale or
guy.
something,
Yeah, but if you needed a friend, he was there.
Yeah.
And love the guy. To this day, I'm still, Don, if you ever listen to this, I love you, buddy.
Yeah.
But one day he comes to me. You know how we do these, like the Sherwin-Williams does these residential repaint conferences,
Yep.
and the pro sales and pro shows. And so he always inviting us to like do smaller events, like to go to these events. And as regular painters, as painters, we're like, no, I'm busy. I don't have time for this. And so I remember he comes to me and he's like, "Hey Juan," and he offered me $100 and drinks and some good sandwiches. I'm like,
He
okay, that
bribed you
sounds.
to go to this
He
thing.
did bribe me to go to
He
this
is a
thing,
friend, man. He really cared.
and dude, I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be here right now talking to you
Changed your
this
life,
way.
man.
Change my life, change illusions. And so, in California, we drove about 2.5 hours south, and we had this conference. Um, and so we get to this conference, and it was in a hotel. We get there. Okay, let me back up a little bit. He goes, "Hey, Juan," I was like, "I got a proposition for you, buddy." I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, "I got an event coming up. Would you want to go?" He's like, "I'm trying to gather a couple painters, and I want to take them." And I'm like, I don't know, Don, I'm busy. Calls me back a couple days ago, a couple days after. He goes, "Hey man," he was like, "I need you to come with me." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I have no one. No one is going with me." And there's all these regions, so every one of them had to bring at least a couple guys, into this event,
And
and so no one's going.
Don's working at Sherwin right
Yeah,
now.
Sherwin.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh no, he's retired now.
But
He's retired.
he was working at
He
Sherwin.
was yeah, he was a
Okay.
Sherwin rep, and so, long story short, we ended up going to this event. We show up and, it's just me and him driving down for 2 hours, just talking about life in general. We get there and there's probably about 8 painters in total. So it was just something very small. And they were
Is this
presenting
where was this?
this is San Luis Obispo.
Okay.
This is in California.
Okay.
And so they're actually known for the sandwiches. Like they have some of the best tri-tip sandwiches in the state. So that's what he sold
That is
me in,
saying
right?
something.
He goes like, "Look, free beer, free food. Come on, man." And he was like, "I'll give you $100 in store credit. Like, come on, what's wrong with that?" So I was like, "All right, Dan." So Don, we ended up there.
Yeah.
Um, so we're sitting there and they're telling us about other products and stuff. And then Josh Abramson from Albright Painting down in Santa Clarita, California, he comes and he has a speech uh about what how he started his business. He's talking about as a young guy how he started his business. He didn't have a clue what he was doing, and then he became across the PCA. And I'm all like, PCA.
What's the
Well,
PCA again?
yeah, I was like, the PCA. And I was like, what's the PCA, right? Now I may know what it is, but back then
Yeah.
I was like, what? Actually, back then it was the PDCA.
Sure.
It
Yeah.
changed now to the PCA.
There are
And
still a lot of people, Juan. I think most people listening to this do know it.
uh,
Not everyone, but there are a lot of people who still don't know it, which is something
no,
we're Yeah, which is up. So I'm on the marketing committee for PCA right now, and it's something we are very, very actively working on changing. But
I'm
it's
changing
actually
that.
shocking and alarming how many people are actually still in the position you are in.
Oh God, I mean, I will talk about my experience with the
Yeah.
PCA later on in our episodes, and I can tell you a lot of what we're doing, yourself and myself too, to bring this up there more because it's
Yeah.
what it's done to my company, to myself, to my
Well,
family, to my
you're on the
future.
board of directors now.
So I'm
Thanks
not
for doing
sure.
this stuff.
I'm an honored director in there, and man, it's something that never in my life I would have thought. But we don't want to shift gears and get there soon. We don't want to
I'm sorry,
spoil
man.
the
I
the
ruin
season. Yeah.
every time. I ruined the illusion thing last time. Should I put some tape over my mouth or something? You keep going, messing this up.
I'm
We have
I'm
too
really
good of a
try
relationship, so I
I'm
like
I'm I'm really
diving into everything.
trying, buddy. I'm really trying not to spill the beans, and I'm
I
like,
know. And then this guy, this podcaster.
no,
You go, Juan. I'm
so
gonna stop.
so no, 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 no. This is awesome. No, we can talk about it. No. So listening to Josh, he was talking about how he was a younger, painter and the struggles he had in his business, and how by discovering the PCA in being exposed to other painting companies, and he mentioned like the PCA expos that they do every year and stuff. And I'm like, I was very impressed. Like the whole thing that we were there for the Sherwin-Williams part, I don't remember much. But the one thing I remember is when he mentioned the PCA and what it did to his company. And then after I came back and I started searching a little bit more about his business, I'm like, man, like this guy's no joke.
Yeah.
And it's opened my mind. So after the presentation, Don took me to get the famous sandwich, the tri-tick sandwich. We had a couple beers, and I was just like, man, I was so lit. And he's like, you okay, buddy? I'm like, man, I'm like, Don, I'm like, I'm gonna owe you for the rest of my life. He's like, oh, it's
Wow.
okay, man. Like, but I was so like just just something in me just churn. So by that time, I don't think I have mentioned my business partner Jose yet, and
We
and
need
this
to get him
whole
on one of these. We
we
need to have
definitely,
him
I
on
think in
one.
the next one we definitely got to bring him
Yeah.
in. Um, so Jose, he's my business partner. He's my brother-in-law. Uh, I like the guy. I hate him sometimes. Same thing, him and I.
Family
Like we
business.
love each other. And there's
Yeah.
days that I can just tell him with a look, like, "Go away," and he goes away.
Not
And then
today. Yeah.
sometimes, he'll do the same thing to me, but we have that relationship. So we go back to it. We were two painters, too busy. He couldn't make it that day. He was like, "Nah, I'm too busy. I can't do that kind of stuff." And we always talked about like he had his own business, I had my own business, and we always talked about like merging together, like partnering together. So I came back and I'm like, his name is Jose, but I always call him Joe. Or it's just Joe. It's easier, probably more attractive, more sexy, right? I'm just saying.
I don't. Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and leave that. Go ahead. I'm not gonna say anything. We got Jose's and we got Joe's that listen. I'm just gonna totally leave that.
Right?
Yep.
So I call him Joe, right? And so I'm like, Joe, I'm like, dude, I'm like, I went over there, and he'll tell you how I came up to him, like, God, like the whole world just opened up to my eyes, right? And I was like, I heard about the PC8, and is this the organization, and this is what they do. And he looked at me like, okay. And I've always been that kind of crazy guy that always seeking for something, there's got to be more. And so he's like, what is that? I'm like, it's a PC8. And I didn't know what it was. So we're searching it. And he's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. And I remember it was coming up, and it usually turns around, what, it's like February, March
Yeah.
when they have the
End of
expo.
February, early March usually.
Yeah. And so I remember it's gonna be his birthday, because his birthday is right in the beginning of March. And I'm like, hey, dude, it's your birthday. We can probably go and hang out. He's like, dude, how are we gonna do this? Like we were trying to merge together. He's like, I got no money. I'm like, and he's like, dude, I don't care. The company will pay for it. He looks at me and laughs. He's like what? Your company has no money. I'm like, bro, I got a credit card.
It's it's a good line though. Don't worry about it. This one's on the company. That
right?
happens to be like totally backed by you, but that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. No big deal. But so honest truth, we put everything on a credit card. And you know, we ended up going to the PC8. I remember showing up to this event and you know, well, we'll talk about more how the PCA goes. But you know, you come in and then you have these, you go into a very nice place, you know, to start with. I think before I started doing these trips, I might have taken a couple trips in different states, but that was it. I was never traveling, doing much. So this was one of the very few times that, you know, couple young, you know, Mexican kids go to these fancy events and you go to these fancy resort and you know, you see all these guys, big companies, you know, making few $1 million, and we're like, I'll be honest with you. I think that year I made because we weren't business, we weren't together in that business
Yeah.
yet. I think I was around 400,000,
Yeah.
or yeah, I think around 400,000. So I remember sitting down in this round table and looking at like, oh, how to get to the million, how to break the million, how to get to 5 million, the 10 million, and I'm like, I'm looking around and I'm like, dude, we don't belong here. Like, what are we doing here? Jose had it was so hard to convince this guy. And I'm telling you this because I know there's a lot of people out there who are in this position. They're like, no, what business do I have being it? And believe it or not, you know, we took that chance. We took that chance, man. And after this event passed, we met we met a lot of people. Some, I mean, we'll get to that a little bit more, but it really changed us. It really exposed us, like Josh said, it exposed us to a whole different level of business. Now it wasn't more about just painting. It was like, oh, how can you have strategies? How can you have systems in the company? How can you, like, I don't know, do more with your company? And so it just completely, I guess it changed everything. One thing I can tell you, we came back to our office, and by then we had Isabel working in our office, and we came back and say, okay, scratch everything we've done to today, and we're starting fresh. So 180, you know, we went from going right to come back and going left.
Wow.
I remember coming back and we just basically said, just change everything we knew. You know, we started looking at how can we more, how can we do profits? How can we just so many things. Um, you know, sitting down right now and thinking about those days is like it's so scary. You know, it's like you're like, how am I gonna do it? Like you look at these companies that have the systems, you look at these companies that have all the procedures already. Like, you know, we talk about like that's the first time I met Nick, and man, that guy, we always talk about it. You know, that guy has has a system. That guy, God, like that's the god of the painters. You know, he's a
But
cool
yeah,
dude.
you hear him
Huh?
talk about how he didn't have that stuff for
Exactly.
so long.
And so you know, doing that really changed a lot. And it doesn't just change it, you know, it gives you that that motivation, and it gives you at least a sense of knowing that there's something else. You
Yeah.
know, there's no more as painters, we talked about in the last episode. I mean, most of us painters don't start business painting saying, oh, you know, I want to start a business painting. No, I mean, a lot of times we are painters and we become contractors because that's our next step, right?
Yeah.
But we are being painters playing to be a contractor. And some of us don't prepare ourselves to move to that, you know, to that position in our business.
Do you
I
believe
know
there's a
for
difference between like being a painting owner and being, a business owner? I know some people argue there's not a difference. Some people say it's a totally different mindset.
man, it's day and night.
Mm.
I mean, it's day and night. You know, when you're the painter, the belief that the craftsmanship, the craftsman, that like if you don't have your hands on everything, it's not gonna be done right. I think one of the things that really changed my way of seeing things and looking at the business, is seeing the amount of successful businesses there that that never were a painter before. So most of these business owners weren't painters. They were not.
So
The background was
maybe
not
an
a painter.
advantage almost for them.
Oh God, it is. You know
Yeah.
why? Because they didn't see us painters. If something's not going right, we drop whatever we're doing and we'll go do it.
Yeah, they can't do it.
And they can't do it, so they have to rely on people, on not people but professionals who can do that better. They can,
It's a great
better they
point.
can.
They have
And
to
I
learn the skill
think
set of delegation because it's
yes.
their survival mechanism. Whereas painters, their survival mechanism is go ahead and paint it and fix it and make it right. Go do the touch ups yourself.
Well, that's the difference between the painter and the business owner,
Yeah.
you know. And I think that's one of the biggest things I took out of that, of like, there is a way, let's go find it. And it hasn't been easy, I mean, this is now 5 years. We went there in 2018 when we went to our first PCA, and I mean, 2023, now, I my fifth year I show up there, and they, I was honored to be actually more part of it, and become, a lot more part of it, and doing more things to advocate. And it's because of that reason. So now I understand. I think the better thing that you can understand in your business is that what I said is, understand that in order to grow your business, you have to be a business owner, not a painter. And we're talking about painters now because of this, but that's the big difference. If you keep being the painter, it's gonna be very hard for you to grow a business unless you hire someone to run your business. But that, I don't know how probably people do it. I just don't know how. I don't know how I would do it if that was the case. But if you have the knowledge of running a business, any type of business, then now you just create the systems and educate yourself and create a team, and create goals and create strategies. And that's what we got our eyes open to. So for the next year, I think that we came back and we're like, you know what, we're going back to PCA next year.
Yeah.
And so throughout the year, it's easy, you come back fresh from an event like this, and your mind is like, it's like blown away. Yeah, you have so much in your mind, and you want to come and do so much, but you can only do so much. And so we came back and changed a lot of the systems, a lot of the stuff in our office. We started creating more. We didn't. We weren't creating systems at that point. We were just looking and planning on how we can get away from that mentality. How can we implement some of this? And it wasn't easy, because a lot of times, like, we will see companies, and we'll look at them and be like, oh, but they're doing this. And then you try to do it and it doesn't work.
Mhm.
Or they're like, oh, you have to charge this much. And then we're like, what if I charge that and I'm not going to get the job? Or I was trying to hire someone to do other than painting, and I didn't even know how, you know? So it wasn't like, oh my God, just something happened and the business just overturned. It doesn't work that way. But the mind shift, but the mindset shift, and that's what helped us grow. At least at that point, the mind shift really, really got us to start looking in other ways. And so I think that was the best part of that time, So in 2 years, we went from it was 2 years that we went from 480,000 to close to $2 million.
Wow. 2 years.
In 2 years.
Solid.
And to me, it was just
After having operated for what, 10 plus years before that.
yeah, exactly. After 11 years.
Wow.
11, 12 years. And so the shift was crazy. I gotta share this story. After coming back from the PCA, I got I understood that there was like we were doing a lot of like Zoom meetings and like not Zoom meetings, but what do you call those? Like Tom Reber. You met Tom Reber, right?
Yep.
So he did a webinar.
Okay.
And I remember seeing them there at the PCA, and then he's like, hey, he conducts all these webinars and these trainings, and so I signed up for one of them, and it was about four or five of us, and I was in California. This was one person I believe was in Texas, and I can't remember the other ones, but it was all over, five of us from all over the country, and the whole conversation was about like, what's your goal? What do you want in your business? And it's kind of dumb now. I laugh about it because he goes and asks everyone. He comes to me. He's like, "Hey, Juan, so what do you want in your business? Like, what do you want to see in your business?" And I'm like, you know what? I want to get to $1 million. That was my answer. I laugh. I'm like, why? And so he goes, $1 million, Tom. Okay, and Tom, he's very
Very soft.
straightforward guy.
He's not gonna speak his mind.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And so complete opposite of that, of course.
Yeah.
And so he goes like, let me come back to you. I think I was the dumbest answer of everyone. Everyone else was like, I want to implement this, I want to do that, and I was like, damn it, you're dumb. Why do you even say that? He comes back to me. He's like, all right, Juan. So let me tell you. It's like, let me ask you, why do you want to make $1 million? I'm like, Tom, I don't know. I'm like, I think it just sounds cool. He just
I
laughed.
love the honesty, man.
Very good, dude.
It's true though. That's
It
why
is
there's so
true.
many things like, hey, get to $1 million, because it is a benchmark. It does sound cool.
Yeah, it at the moment, like I was like, after I felt dumb, but at the moment, it's like it sounded cool. Me, like $1 million. Like not that you're making $1 million,
Sure.
but your business, made $1 million. Like that was like the ultimate for me. And so he goes, all right, buddy. I was like, let me ask you a couple things. I was like, do you know how would you get to $1 million? I'm like, no. It's like, what would you do, or what would you do at the point when you make that $1 million? I'm like, I really don't know. I was like, do you know how to get there? I'm like, no. He goes, I would encourage you to start thinking of strategies on how you will get to $1 million. He goes, if you start working on your business, go back to your business, see your profits, see how much you're charging. And he gave me a list of things, and he goes, the minute you hit, he goes, you're gonna reach that $1 million. So he's like, if you do these steps, you're gonna reach that $1 million, and you're not even gonna see it. And I was like, yeah, whatever, dude. I was like, I don't think so. But honestly, I never saw that $1 million. I never I never I think when we got to the point to that $2 million, that's when it really hit me. But I never saw that $1 million that I was hitting for.
Yeah.
And now these days I look back and I'm like man, like that is it's powerful, because
It
at that
is.
point that was my mark. I felt that if I can reach that, I reached the heavens and I'm
Sure.
done. And so that goes to tell you there's our mentality, there's our mindset. Sometimes we're just we don't take the time to, we just think of something cool, but we're not looking behind it. And maybe I'm not making a lot of sense right now. I'm just really
I think,
honestly, I'm really deep into like these
yeah.
stories, because
Well, they're awesome, man. I appreciate you opening up. So I have a couple thoughts here.
yeah.
So I think I had a similar experience, as an
Oh
entrepreneur. I
yeah.
wanted to get to a million. If we get to a million, that's when you made it as an entrepreneur, right? Got to a million. And I remember the day we got there, I was talking to my wife, and it was like, oh, we're at, have $1 million company. And then I was like, okay, cool. All right, what do I have to do? It just kind of was, it wasn't this firework thing that was sort of in my mind. But I do want to push back on you a tiny bit, Juan, with
Uh-huh.
you saying like, oh, it was a silly thing. I don't think it is, because I think you have to pick something at a million. You have enough revenue to generate true profitability. You have enough revenue to build yourself out of the business if you do it the right way, to put the team. You have luxuries that you just don't have at 3, 4, 500,000, especially as a painting contractor. You don't have those
Yes.
luxuries. And so there is something significant to that. I do believe there's something significant as an entrepreneur, really just in life, of setting a goal, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
doing the Babe Ruth kind of point to the outfield, set something.
Yes.
But then you're right. The next step is, okay, you set that goal, you point to the outfield. Good. Hopefully you're serious about it. Hopefully, even if you don't believe in yourself right now, just start doing the actions. And hopefully somewhere along the way you do. That's a whole nother rant for me. But hopefully somewhere along, I don't think you need to believe in yourself. I think you just need to continue to go and not stop going. But hopefully at somewhere along the way you do get that belief in yourself. But now you need to come up with a plan. As Tom said, it's not just going to happen. If you dream, if you have a goal or you're dreaming, excuse me, if you basically set a goal but you don't have a plan, then it's dreaming, right? So you have to
Yes.
then, you have the goal, you set it, you point to the outfield, sounds cool. The reality is it fundamentally does matter, because it gives you options in your business. But now you have to go under the hood, and you actually got to create a plan to get there.
I think that it has a lot. It makes a lot of sense what you're saying. You can have a goal, but if you don't have a plan, it's going to be very hard to get there.
And your
You
start
if
was
you
it though, man. Like if you were sitting in that circle and
Mhm.
people are saying, well, I wanna, I wanna get better at job costing, right? Or I want to do X, Y, or Z. I want to be more efficient in our lead flow handling, whatever they're talking about. If you were to say that, and your mindset had just shifted, you're just at the 400,000 after 11 years, and you're focusing on one detail. To me, that would actually be the stupid answer. To me, the bigger answer is, what's the vision? That's basically the vision. Where are you going?
that
Where are you
was the
trying to get
vision.
to? And then you got to fill it in.
I think so. I think having a plan is very important. Because it gives you a target. But now how what do you need to get there? And I think that's kind of what I've got from, believe it or not, so there's I owe so much to so many guys, like Josh. I've had a couple, opportunities to talk to him, and I said, hey man, believe it or not, like this is probably you never think of these things, but I owe you a lot. He's like, why? It's like, man, like, just listening to you, it changed my mindset.
Yeah.
I am I am moving towards where I want to go because of what you said. You probably, he inspired me. Tom, when I had that conversation with him, like he made me realize, and you know how, very straightforward he is. He made me understand that, like, okay, yeah, want to get there, but how are you gonna get there? And so it made me kind of like create a plan.
You help the
So
rubber meet the road there with your
thank you.
inspiration.
Thank you. And I think that's where a lot of us in this painting in this industry are in that position. We want to get somewhere, but we don't know how. We
Yeah.
have dreams and we have thoughts, but and a lot of times we don't find those resources. We don't take the time to go find those resources. We just feel that by being busy, we're gonna get there. And sometimes it's actually the opposite. The busier you are, the less time you have to find these opportunities, to look
Yeah.
for these opportunities. And so really, really coming back around and putting those two together really worked out very, very well.
Don't
So
mistake activity for achievement. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're achieving a bunch. And then I actually have fallen into that trap of just working, right? The answer is always work more. If you work more, you push harder, you do more, you exert more effort, you leave it all out on the field every single day. Well, then you're going to move forward as fast as you can. And then one thing I learned, which was very counterintuitive to me, is actually if you leave a little less out on the field, if you force yourself to carve out a day and just spend it with family or vacation, all of a sudden your mind starts to open up and you come up with all these ideas and these thoughts and ways to basically apply leverage to your company because you do something more intelligently than you've been doing it historically, and essentially leapfrog the former version of yourself, which is just based on the hamster wheel running faster and faster and faster as the company grows.
it really is. I was just I read this caption where it says that the busier you are, the less you're moving. And I
Man, that's a
really
good one.
believe that,
That is a good one.
because, sometimes, when you're too busy, you don't have time to be strategic, to have a strategy.
Yeah.
The moment you sit down and really and just sit back and analyze things, when we're in the rat race, we're just running, we're just taking all our energy goes into like working, running, and then just it's not productive. And I think that's very big for us to understand in this industry. Like, take your time to if so I've had conversations with people, and that's something with other painters, and this is something that I didn't see before. Everyone that I've talked to recently, they come to me and they say, "Oh no, I don't want to have a big business. Oh, I don't want to have this." And that's fine. You don't have to have a big business. We need to have a profitable business. We want to have systems in our business. Um, so one of the things that one of the things that I got from the PCA, from going PCA, was reading. Well, reading is more like listening to books. I've never been a big reader. I just not for me, but I've learned to listen to books. And so now, instead, us, in the trade, we drive a lot from one job to
Sure.
another. And so I was always like listening to the radio, music, whatever, right? So now it's like it became a thing of like, oh, I can listen to a book. I can listen to a podcast. I can listen to all these things and learn something. And believe it or not, it changes a lot up here. I
Reprograms
remember,
your brain. It literally,
God,
there's research on it. It literally changes like the synapses or whatever of your brain to actually be a bit different.
does it? Oh God. Well, that's what it did to me.
Yeah.
And so, we're sitting there and we heard about they gave us the first book, and this is through PCA, just reading and listening to them. It was Michael Gerber, um,
E-Myth.
Imit, right? That's the iconic book.
The
I
girl,
rem
is it the bagel shop? Like her passion was making bagels, I think, or maybe it was just some other kind of bakery.
yeah,
And then she's just
yeah,
sitting
it
on
was
the
a
ground
bakery.
crying,
Yes,
basically rocking.
yes, yes. Yeah, you remember?
I do,
That
man. It's powerful.
that hotel that he drove by, and it was like it's the most expensive hotel, but they knew my name and all these things. But you know what
Yep.
I've got from that book is that the one thing I really, to this day, I really follow from that book is to create a franchise prototype of your business.
Yeah. I
And
love that.
no, you don't want to have a franchise. You don't want to be a franchise. No, it's a prototype. Like, have your
Like the
business.
McDonald, like Jason Phillips calls it, the easy oven. Right? It's
Yeah,
just gotta
exactly.
go. Yeah.
That's right. And so that was kind of like that was the model. I think that that's the one thing that to this day really sticks out. You know, um, how can you create a business that is going to run on its own? I remember hearing it like you don't see, the McDonald's owner serving you the burger, like he owns it, but he's somewhere else,
And you
he's a
don't see
business
them
owner.
needing, there's nothing wrong with, the team members there, but it's not the most demanding. They don't need just the absolute best. They only hire 1 out of 30 people. It's not quite that demanding because their processes can take reasonably competent applicants and turn them into productive members in the restaurant.
Correct. I mean, that inspired me to watch the movie. I don't know if you watched
Yeah.
the
Oh
movie,
yeah. The founder.
right? The founder.
Founder. Yeah.
And
That's a great movie, man.
God,
Telling those
and
the mixers in the beginning had like the six
yeah, right.
mixers. Yeah.
And this guy, I mean, what's his name? Crocker. I can't
Ray
remember his
Kroc.
Ray Kroc.
Yeah.
Um, he's in late 40s. Like he's a guy who's like pretty much tired and done with everything that he's doing. And
His wife was not super supportive in that movie. You never really know exactly how you don't
exactly,
know
that's
how
very
people
true.
are depicted, but yeah,
Yes.
his life seemed less than desirable to me in that movie.
But it's like, and I think the one thing that I really picked is, do you remember in that in one episode where they're setting up the kitchen, like the way he's setting up the
Yeah,
kitchen?
he's like mapping it out and he's obsessed. And he's like, no, like
Yes,
3 pickles, not two
uh,
pickles. And he's like every
right.
little thing.
That reminds me of Jason.
Yeah,
I feel
it's
Jason's like that.
conveyor belt. And I think people have this misconception of, well, if it's then it's got to be shoddy quality. No, it'll actually be better quality. It's not that you
Yes,
turn it into a McDonald's when you want it to be a nice steakhouse or something nicer. It's that you have the efficiency of a
yes.
McDonald's.
The efficiency, the consistency, it's always the same.
Yeah.
And see, in our business, when we are in the business, what happens is, what happened to me at that, in those days, was that like you want to do everything. Like we were just talking earlier, you're wearing so many hats that
Yeah.
you can't cover everything. You just can't. So you create these system where like now, if you create that system and you implement it, everybody knows their position. All you got to make sure that just follows one after another, and that's how you create those systems. Back then, I didn't know that, and it's amazing how you can get this kind of information. You're not going to find this information, painting or rolling a wall. No, you're going
Yeah.
to find this information getting out of your comfort zone, and that's what we did at that point. Um, having to bring Jose along with me and having him to be like really understand why we were there, that was the tough part. Because I would jump off a cliff. Jose was like, no, no, I'll wait for you. You go down there and come back and tell me how it went, right?
Younger
But
Jose thought a little bit differently from younger
oh,
Juan.
it's kind of funny because it goes opposite. I think it was before I would jump first and question later. Jose would not jump and question why, right? Now we're the opposite. I think Jose has taken that role of like,
Mm.
I'll probably be a little more cautious and I'll watch people jump. And I'm like, nah, I've done that before. And he's like, we gotta jump now.
You've
I'm like,
created a
dude,
monster, man. You pulled him into it, created a monster.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So no, I think we both learned a lot, and so we go back to those days where there's a lot of nights, there's a lot of I remember when we were at that point, when we finally merged, and I think that was after the second PCA we went to. um that's when we finally merged. And I remember talking to a couple of the coaches and like Annie Newton. She's awesome, by the way. I don't know if you met her. And
I've not met
I
Annie.
remember
I have not met Annie.
no.
Not yet.
And she's a really great person and gave me a lot of good feedback and say, you got to be careful. Partnerships are very tough. And they are, it's just like a marriage, I think.
Yeah.
We really got to trust each other. We got to really give each other, support. Sometimes, when we were at that point, I think we had eight employees. And we were trying to build the business. We were trying to rebuild the business, actually, not build, but rebuild the business. And at the same time, still working every day. He's spraying, I'm doing
Tough, man.
finishes. It's Saturday night, it's Sunday night, and you're working,
Yeah.
and then we're flying here. We ended up going to some of the residential repaint firms. So we got to travel, and it was hard. It was so hard to leave the business unattended because we will be on the phone constantly. Like, oh, this didn't happen. We still had to order paint. We were calling the clients. Like most of our guys didn't speak English at the moment, when we were most of our cleaners. So we would have to call the clients and, these guys showing up and this is what's going on. So you had to do all that. So that gave us like, we're like, man, are we ever going to be able to get out of this? Have someone who can take care of this? And it seemed like an eternity, let me tell you. It was very stressful to
Yeah.
do so, but we had a plan, and little by little, the plan kept evolving and growing. And so it doesn't happen overnight, so a lot of people, I think, they want results quick, and it just doesn't work that way. You have to put in the work. um the great thing is there's so many resources, and at that point we found them, and we keep going back to the PCA. Is there's all these
Well, it's
resources.
what did it for you. And
For
it's because
me
you took
is,
advantage of it.
yeah, exactly. So yeah,
There-
those were
There's
those
so many
days,
good,
man.
yeah, there's so many good points you've made here, man. So one of the things that I always say, and my wife and I say, obviously when you run a business or start a business, you're in it, right? Whether your wife
Yeah,
works in it or not, you're both in
yeah.
that business. That's just how it is, especially when you have kids. So
Oh yeah.
yeah. So we always say it always takes longer than you want it to or than you think it's going to. And I think the most important thing to do, because sometimes we talked about it last episode, where you can start to question yourself, or is what I'm doing the right thing,
Yeah.
especially if you're focused on longer term things. And let's say you go to PCA Expo, you learn the stuff, your mind expands and changes, and then a couple months later, you haven't noticed a huge impact, and you can kind of start to question yourself. But one of the things I urge everyone to do is just do the right thing every day. Wake up and do the right thing. Wake up and do the right thing. Do what you think you need to be doing for your business, which is what we're talking about right now. And if you do that enough days in a row, you're going to get there. Almost certainly. It's almost statistically impossible for you not to get there.
And the thing is, like, there's we always seem to know, we know what we want sometimes in our business, right? But as we take this venture into our business, things change.
Yes, they do.
Our business has changed quite a bit from what we wanted in those years. From 2018 to now, it has shifted quite a bit. We had a goal, and we are going towards that goal, but things have changed. They have evolved. They have, turned into something that we thought that maybe so. We at that point, we've been a company that we want to create something unique. We like a challenge. We want to stand out in our demographic, right? We want to be the guys to go to. Some people do it in high-end residential like we do. Some people do it in commercial, some do it in repaint. But you know, have a focus. I think that really helped us at that moment to really define what we were going for.
So
Uh,
you're
you know,
saying basically a niche, like a service that you
y-
offer, focus,
yeah,
don't offer too many different kinds of services.
sometimes it's very tough when you want to do that, because then
Yeah.
now you need more, you need more hands, you need more strategies. And so when you focus on one thing, then you kind of start focusing on that. So in those years, so we're talking about, those years for us at that time, our goal was to get to these high-end homes in our area. That's kind of like what we have more here, and we wanted to dominate that niche of the industry.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're just gonna go up there and do it, because you got to prove yourself. um there was a point where we wanted to do things, but the people don't have enough trust in you. You haven't built that trust, and now you're flying to a different state to learn something. Now you're driving to go do a training, and some of the contractors in our area will look at you and be like, what are you doing? Like, why don't you just work? I'm like, no, because I want to learn. And so at that point, it was very tough. We started doing more social media. That's kind of where we got our eyes exposed to social media, like in 2018, 2019. And it was so weird for us to grab a phone and like record, or I don't know. I know a lot of guys. This is very funny because we used to pull our phone and we were like very like discreet, take a picture. and like, okay, put it away, because they looked at you kind of funny, like, what
Sure.
are you doing? Like, and so, especially when we try to do like a live, I was like, we're very timid. Like, how would we do it? Um, and a lot of people will see us like weird. Like, what are you doing? Like, this, just work. Like, why do you want to be online? And so, throughout the years, that has changed. Social media has done
You're a pioneer.
wonders. In our area, I believe that
Yeah.
that we are, we've learned at that moment to start creating a brand. That was very important. So we talk about like branding. I think is one of the most important things in our business, and the sooner we can do that in our business, it's really going to pay us big.
Yeah.
At that time, in our area, I, since day one, I put a big old wrap in my truck, and then I would drive around every day. So everybody got to know, like, oh yeah, I seen your truck all over town.
Would you so not just between projects or estimates, you would just drive it to drive it like a
That
billboard?
was that was my only truck. So I would go to the farmers market, I'll go
Yeah.
to the gym,
Good
I
for
would
you,
go
man.
to everywhere. It was
Have
just
that bad
my
boy
only
everywhere. Yes, sir.
Well, it was my only source of transportation, so
Yeah.
it will be everywhere. And then, but then now being with the PCA, now I kind of were more exposed to like all the other companies saying like, oh yeah, branding, branding, branding. And I was like, well, I didn't see it this way, so now we started putting more into it, and so now that's really helped us around that time is having a you don't have to have 20 trucks. If you have one truck that drives around all day, that's a moving billboard,
Yeah.
That's a mobile billboard. I mean, everyone is gonna see it. And if you live in a small town, then you put your name out there. And that's one of the cheapest advertisement
Sure.
ways you can do. And we did that at that time. So I guess it's sitting down and understanding all these different points of the business, the branding, the systems, the creating the business image and creating a backbone in your business, not just the painting. That really helped us around that time. Um, and like I said, we go back to PC8 has really done that number. I think, God, we're creating a whole PC8 segment here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what, right? We talked about this. That's what actually did it for you. And I think,
Yeah.
I mean, some of the things you said here, so I want to circle way back to something because it's just so important. Is you said if you're in the rat race or you're stuck doing this stuff, then you don't have the time to think or really plan or innovate in your business. And if you think about how important that is, right? If you're thinking about your business from a business perspective, somebody needs to have a vision. Somebody needs to be planning, innovating, finding opportunity. Like you said, maybe defining a niche very more narrowly and something that's going to be profitable and that you guys can really create that McDonald's model of efficiency and effectiveness for and consistency. And if you're not doing it, there's a really good chance that nobody's doing it. So now you
Yeah.
basically have a ship, if you will, just essentially drifting around. It
Yeah.
goes wherever it's going because nobody, the captain is not manning that thing. That thing is just kind of drifting. And that's where a lot of people live with their businesses. And then they wonder why they're working for years and they're not where they want to be because somebody needs to be steering that thing.
We were talking about in the last episode about how my main thing of leaving the company where I used to work for was that I didn't want to be 60 pushing a brush, you know?
Yeah.
And and then at the same time, I think that at that time, then around those years, I saw a lot of the older painters. They were exiting the business. I'm talking about people who hired me and Jose back in the days, and they were in the late 60s, and they they have a business. They in our area probably there's over 150 painting companies. It's a small area, but there's a lot of
Yeah.
painting companies. The problem is that no one really there's not a lot of people. There's probably God, I would say if a 10% it's a high percentage of the companies that really have a business that has a strategy that can probably survive generations. Most of them are the guy who carries 2, 3 guys around in his truck and they paint. But one thing that I saw is that I see these guys, trying to exit their business, but they don't have an exiting plan. There's no there's no business behind it. All they have is probably a set of tools, maybe a couple clients that they know, and their own skills. Can you sell that?
You're just selling a job.
Exactly. And so I guess that motivation really helped us at the moment and say, you know what? And that's the PCA exposed us to do that, because I'm like, this guy can actually build a business 5 years from now. If you have a system that can duplicate and I have a network of clients and all these things involved, I can sell this. I remember hearing, from Gerber again, the image. It was like, you build this baby and you create this baby, and then you can sell this baby, or you can even buy it back.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that is so true.
And
And
thinking about it as a separate entity too. The business is
yes,
not just you, it's not just your grind. Like it's like a machine, it's a separate thing from you, no matter how emotionally attached you are to it, because it's your baby, but it's a separate thing that you are building that needs to
yes,
stand on its own 2 legs.
it has to. And I think that if you're gonna start a business right now, think of that from the beginning.
Yeah.
The name, you go back to, I've been asked why our business called Illusions, and believe it or not, it took a long time for me to come up with the name, because my first initial was like Vasquez painting. I'm like,
Sure.
dude, like, I
No
mean, I
one's
don't
ever
know.
named their painting company something like that. That would have been a
R-
first.
Right.
Yeah.
And then paint, we have a lot of in our area, is their last name, is their name, or it's just something, but it's very personal. And so when I actually started this, I wanted something that we go back, and let me rephrase this. Um, Being Juan Vasquez in my area, I didn't want to. I want to stand out. I wanted Illusions to be its own identity, and I didn't want that to follow, like, say, oh, I'm Juan Vasquez painting. I'm like, no, because then now it kind of relates to me. So
Sure.
when we created Illusions painting, there was many times that I will show up to jobs and they'll be like, hey, I've been seeing you here for quite some time, and am I ever gonna meet your boss, or has your boss come by?
That's awesome.
I swear there was a few times that I was, and I'll just be like, he's too busy, but he's like, oh, no, 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 we love you, you're awesome, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't say anything. A few of them found out through my guys or to someone else, and they were so embarrassed.
It's
They're like,
funny.
oh, I'm so sorry. I mean, because they don't see Juan Vasquez running the business,
Sure.
they saw Illusions, and and they were like, they thought of something different. And when I saw Juan Vasquez, they were like, oh, okay, when is your boss coming? It's
That's
like,
so
nah,
funny.
he's not coming.
Yeah. So I want to say, for anyone listening who does have the name, last name or what last name company painting, um, you can still sell it, right? You can still create an entity. It's
Yeah,
kind of more of a mindset thing. That's not, and if you're listening, you're like, dang it, like I actually care, which by the way, you don't have to care, but if you
yeah,
actually care, you can always do a DBA.
yeah.
So doing
Exactly.
business as.
And I did that for many years, so I had a DBA. So I
Yeah.
did illusions painting, but it was DBA, doing business as, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
I did that for many years.
I want to ask you something sort of off topic, but
Hmm.
it's an important point because I see so much misunderstanding around this. What's the population roughly in your service area?
Oof.
You
Oh
said it's
God, I think,
a little bit of a smaller area.
you know what? I'm gonna have to come back and tell you that. I'm not
We'll
so
look it
big
up, man.
into,
Where,
yeah.
what's your address? Where are you at?
So we're in Monterey, California.
Monterey, California. Okay, so you have 30,000 people in there.
in there. But then we have like Pebble Beach, which honestly they're actually smaller communities, but they're very so we live in an area that basically people come here to buy homes from all over the
4,000.
country. Huh?
That
Wow,
looks
it's
like it's around
4,000 in Pebble Beach?
maybe I mean this is what I'm seeing. Yeah.
Wow, that's very small.
So we're gonna say maybe, I mean this is rough, maybe have 50,000 if you add up all your
I think
areas.
I mean if you add up everything, you're over 100,000
Okay, so
because
you're over
we serve
100,000.
over 100,000.
Most companies have access to over. I mean, some are really out there, and then
Yeah.
maybe you don't. But most, if you encapsulate a service area where you drive, maybe you're willing to go 45 minutes. You know, you're willing to go an hour. There, by
Mhm.
far, most places are going to hit that kind of population. You have let's say 150 companies in that area.
Mhm.
What's your revenue now, roughly?
Our revenue, how much our business is doing?
Yeah.
I actually, so right now we think we're about 2.5 mil.
Okay, so you're at
And
two.
so,
So I,
mhm,
I just want to bring this up, Juan, because
mhm,
I see people in these areas, running these companies who maybe are at 300,000 or
mhm,
sometimes 500,000, or maybe it is 100,000. They're at like a half a million, and they're like, oh, I think I've topped the market. There's just no one else here, and
no,
it's mind boggling to me. And so I want to say it because I think we put these glass ceilings on ourselves, or we kind of call it too soon, or we think we've maxed out, and that's when people start to be like, well, I'll go into, I'll add another service offering, or we'll do X, Y, or Z. We'll expand because we've tapped this market. But if you actually sit down, do the math, if you actually look at people like Juan and see what they've done in areas that have a lot of other painting companies,
yeah.
the market's there. So don't sell yourself short on your opportunity.
No, you gotta study the market. So one of the things we've been doing probably the last couple of years is building. We had a lot of I think and talk about this today, but we had a lot of like we take some ventures and we're like we want to do this and then it
Yeah,
doesn't work. And you gotta be able to step back and reevaluate because not everything you're gonna do it's gonna work.
it shouldn't.
No,
If
you
it
know,
does, then you're not trying enough things. It better not.
exactly. So our goal right now is the way we're building our business is to be like a one-stop shop.
Yeah.
So this month we're moving into a bigger shop. So we'll talk about this, but our projection is to hit, the 7 to 10 million in the next, hopefully the next 2 years. And we
Oh
feel
boy.
very, very, very sure about that.
No, but
And
you can't because you only have around 100,000 people. It's impossible, Juan.
there's areas. Well, there's
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Juan. Just kidding.
there's areas. So if we drive, there's a lot of money in this area.
Yeah.
It's just we're limited to ourselves.
Mm.
We limit our own capacity to do this. So you cannot. So back then, if you tell me 5 years ago, Juan, there's like you said, there's no way you can do this amount of money here. I would be like, yeah, you're right. There's too much competition. One thing that we've been able to do, or we did throughout these years, is separate ourselves from the competition and set our standards and our price. And that's a very, very tough thing to do in this business
And I
because
want to interject when everyone was saying, hey, Juan, what are you doing? Get back to work. Why are you doing that? That doesn't make any sense. Well, guess what? Now you've separated yourself from all of them.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so it's you got to take those steps. You got to really believe in yourself. You really, I mean, if you're going to sell a product, you got to be able to sell it to yourself first. If you
Mm.
cannot sell it to yourself, you're never going to tell it to
People
anyone
will see
else,
right through it.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm a very big believer that. And then on top of that, then you have your systems and everything else to back it up. But if you cannot sell it to yourself, you won't sell it to anyone else. And I think that was a big thing for us to really understand. And you got to invest in your business. We've been investing for the last, I see it this way. To me, I'm not in a hurry. We're not in a hurry in our business. It took us, you know, I've been in business for 25 years. It took us from 11, 12 years to get to a place where we feel that we can move forward. It's taking us 5 years to get where we are right now. And I feel that it's going to take us another, probably, I feel that it's going to take us another 5 to 10 years to where I'm completely like out, like I feel that in my 50s, I can do as I please. Of course, I'm going to work because we're never going to stop, but it's going to take us there,
Entrepreneurs first.
right? but we're taking those steps. And the thing is, like, we don't want to take those steps sometimes. We want we're scared, like the unknown scares us. And especially in this business and any kind of business, the comfort, you get into the comfort zone where you're like, you know what? Why? Why even do it? Like, I'm good right now. I can pay my bills. I can do these things. But then what about your dreams? What about creating something unique, creating the one business in your area? So one last thing that I at that point I've learned from God, I can't remember his name right now. I'll go back to him. Basically, this is what I heard. After my second year at the PCA, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I can go open a new shop in, like, I don't know, Texas or somewhere else and expand myself. And then Nick Mace. Nick Mace goes like, okay, he goes like, why would you want to do that? I'm like, I mean, because that's the way I'm gonna grow. He's like, no, that's not the way. You're gonna overstand yourself and you are not gonna be able to keep up. And he was like, what you do is like you become the number one person, the business to go to in your area. You become the best in your area. Once you complete that, then you can expand everywhere else. I'm so happy that I heard that at that time, because of that, we were able to just concentrate all of our energy into what we're doing there. Now we can do that if we like to. Well, I don't feel that we're ready, but it was great to hear that from him at that time.
Yeah,
be the best in your area.
Yeah, that's great advice. Invest in your business, invest in yourself. Your business is an extension of you as you're building it separately. I want to wrap this up. So we're a little bit over the hour. I'm going to plug the PCA. Go to PCA Paint Ed, PCAPAINTED.org to check it out. If you're not a member, you can feel free to email me directly if you have any questions, Brandon@paintermarketingpros.com. And then also there is the expo, as Juan has been talking about. It's coming up in 2024. It's at the Swan Dolphin Resort in Orlando, February 26th to March 1st, 2024?
I can't remember.
I know it ends on March 1st. I'm pretty sure February 26th is the first day.
It's usually it's 3 days. Yes, 3 days.
Yeah, so I think February 26th might be if they do the Paint It Forward, I think they'll probably do that again. So it's probably
that's right. God, we're gonna talk about that, but that was so cool, man.
That is cool.
That was a very
especially
unique.
Josh Abramson, created that. So
yeah, and we have God, I can't remember his name right now. From New York, that we did the to help the first responders. Ray from New York. You know Ray, right?
I know Ray. Yeah.
I can't remember his last name, but
I
can't remember his last name.
Is that
Ron? Yeah, Ray.
Is it Ron? I might be thinking about another Ray.
Yeah, well, he started a little side thing from Paint It Forward around the when COVID hit. So he made it like a national thing, and we helped 10 different people from just in our area, from nurses to first responders. And so we gave out 10 different paint jobs, just a small room for 10 different people, and that was awesome, man. We were part of that. That was pretty cool. So now, for anyone that doesn't know about the PCA, that wants to know about the PCA, and there is so much resources. You become part of a community that is just it's not for everyone. I know that some people will be like, it's not for me, and that's completely fine. But if it's something for you, it will take your business and yourself to a different level. And that personally can speak for that.
100%. Yeah, at least do yourself the favor and at least take a look at it.
Yeah,
Juan,
why not?
thank you, brother.
Thank you, my man. I think we really got into this time, but thank you
it's
so
always a
much.
pleasure, man.
My man, thank you so much.
It's always a pleasure. I'll see you for episode 3. Appreciate you, man. You make my life easy, brother. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
If you want to learn more about the topics we discussed in this podcast and how you can use them to grow your painting business, visit paintermarketingpros.com/podcast for free training, as well as the ability to schedule a personalized strategy session for your painting company. Again, that URL is paintermarketingpros.com/podcast. Hey there, painting company owners. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Give us your feedback. Let us know how we did. And also, if you're interested in taking your painting business to the next level, make sure you visit the Painter Marketing Pros website at paintermarketingpros.com to learn more about our services. You can also reach out to me directly by emailing me at brandon@paintermarketingpros.com, and I can give you personalized advice on growing your painting business. Until next time, keep growing.